The Mega Backdoor Roth has become a bit of a recent phenomenon. Years ago, I don't think anyone had ever heard of it, but nowadays I hear about it from time to time, and it goes by lots of fancy names, but at the end of the day, it's just a way to put an absurd amount of money away into retirement. So let's talk about how the Mega Backdoor Roth can really help you build some extensive wealth. The 401k is the chassis that we use for this strategy. The first thing to understand is that 401ks typically have three different buckets. The pre-tax or traditional bucket is the oldest, most well-established bucket that almost any 401k has. The second bucket is called the Roth bucket. Not every single employer has a Roth bucket in their 401k, but most of them do. So bucket 1 and 2 exist at most places, but bucket 3 only exists at about 22% of 401k plans in the United States. The third bucket's called after tax. So buckets 1 and 2 both have a particular rule set that they go by based off the IRS contribution limits, but bucket 3 has a very different way that it works. With the pre-tax, the Roth, and the after-tax bucket, people tend to think you can only put a maximum of $23,000 or maybe more if you're over 50 into those accounts per year. But what actually happens is when you have those three buckets, the total you can put into a 401k each year is actually $69,000. So again, if you go Google, hey, I'm an employee, how much can I put into a 401k, assuming I'm under 50, Google will tell you it's $23,000. But in reality, the total's $69,000. And it's $69,000 when you consider employee contributions, employer contributions, and then also the ability to profit share or use something like an after-tax bucket. So let's talk about a real-life example. Again, if there's someone named Max, they're 30 years old, and they have a 401k with all three buckets, they could potentially take $23,000 and put it into their 401k. Now, let's say Max's employer decides to give a match of $6,000. You take his $23,000 plus the $6,000, and now $29,000 has been put into that 401k account this year. Remember, the maximum is actually $69,000. So if we subtract the $29,000 from $69,000, there's $40,000 left that can go into the after-tax bucket. Now, some of you probably don't believe this because you haven't seen it, but this is a real thing. But again, this only exists at about 22% of 401k plans in the USA. What's really, really cool about the after-tax bucket, you don't get a tax deduction for putting money into it, but when you put money into that after-tax bucket, you're actually able to roll it from the after-tax bucket to a Roth IRA, and almost all of the money can be rolled over completely tax-free. I say almost all of the money because when you put money into an after-tax bucket, your contributions can be rolled over to a Roth tax-free, but any growth on those contributions is taxable and instead could be rolled over to a pre-tax IRA or just left in the employer plan. Depends on the plan. So again, just to walk back through it, if Max has all three buckets at his employer, he can put $69,000 away. Let's say he does the full $23,000 to his Roth. He gets the $6,000 pre-tax match from his employer, which eventually could also be Roth. And then he puts $40,000 after tax into his Roth via conversion. And with these after-tax buckets, sometimes you can take the money out every month or at least once or twice a year. By taking advantage of the Roth 401k and the after-tax bucket, that's $63,000 that can go into a Roth this year. Now, by also relying on our past videos about the Backdoor Roth, maybe Max does another $7,000 into his Roth. So for the year, he's up to $70,000 put away. I get it. Not everyone can put $70,000 away in 1 year. But there's situations where maybe this is possible. And let's say there's a situation where there's a married couple, or there's two people planning for their finances together. Double that, and that's $140,000 that could be parked today to then build up for decades, tax-free. That's really, really impactful for your retirement. And if your goal is to create generational wealth, what better way to do it than to create millions of dollars of tax-free wealth that can seed future generations and the next one, and the next one, and the next one. Now, to wrap it up, the Mega Backdoor Roth really is applicable to people that have pretty high income, or they have a big chunk of liquid assets or cash that they can take and through the course of a year or two, put into a plan so that they can enjoy that money and let it grow and build for decades tax-free. In addition to this type of strategy for people that have traditional or conventional 401ks, there's lots of other ways to put obscene amounts away towards retirement. Even if you're a business owner, you have no 401k, future videos will discuss those types of strategies. So we appreciate you tuning in for today. Leave a comment, subscribe, share this with someone who needs to hear about the Mega Backdoor Roth, and we'll look forward to seeing you next time.